Welcome back to the Black Swordsman's brutal journey. In this chapter, Guts finally breaches the Count's fortress, and the hunt turns into a slaughter. But the lord of this castle is no longer human, and what waits in the throne room will push mortal endurance past its breaking point. Brace yourselves, Chapter 5 begins now. A walled fortress town spreads beneath a heavy, overcast sky, its red-tiled rooftops crowding behind stone battlements and a pair of conical-roofed towers. Far below, a lone hooded figure picks his way carefully across a section of splintered wooden scaffolding jutting from a breach in the outer wall, working his way toward the fortress. Guts sprints along the same broken timber walkway at a dead run, his cloak tearing out behind him like something torn loose from the dark itself. His face is set hard, collar drawn up against the wind, eyes fixed forward on whatever waits ahead of him in the castle. Down a long, arched stone corridor, the Count leads a procession of hooded attendants and armored guards deeper into the castle. The Count's face looms close over the cage, a faint, sated smile on his lips as he reaches for it, and Puck mutters something scornful at him that draws no reaction at all. Behind a drawn curtain, Puck sits caged, quietly sobbing. Puck's mind drifts back into memory. Two bandaged figures loom over him, one admitting quietly that there had been nothing at all he could do to save Vargas. The confession echoes, hollow and useless, the memory sharpening into fresh grief. Still caught in the memory, he asks, in a small voice, what's going to happen to him now. A key turns in an ornate lock. A heavy door swings open to reveal armored guards and hooded attendants waiting beyond it. Puck catches his first glimpse of the girl through the open door, eyes going wide. In an ornate bedroom beneath a crowned canopy, a dark-haired girl sits up in bed with a book open in her lap, candlelight catching the room's heavy drapery and gilded furnishings. The Count steps into the room behind his crew of knights and advisors, and the girl reacts with a startled exclamation. Derja's face fills the panel as she greets her father, the Count. Puck flinches, a startled understanding dawning on him. This girl is the Count's own daughter. He watches, quiet, still turning the thought over. A woman carrying the caged Puck toward the bed asks whether Derja is still awake, confirming what he'd only just begun to grasp. Puck's thoughts flicker. The fact that this is truly the Count's own daughter still hasn't fully settled in him. The Count steps into the room, telling Derja he's brought her a little something. She asks, wary, why he's come to see her so late. Puck stays silent, watching. Derja asks, disbelieving, whether the small winged creature is even real. An elf, she realizes aloud. Asked whether she likes it, she answers simply that she does, though her expression gives away little. The Count asks if she's lonely, shut away here. Derja says nothing. She thanks him, holding the cage close against her, stiff and formal. The Count's face looms into close-up, doting and faintly grotesque, as he tells her he could never let her out into a world he considers overrun with heretics and filth. She only needs to be patient, he says. Puck watches the exchange from the cage, his expression troubled. He murmurs her name. Derja looks down, saying nothing. Derja gasps and pulls back as the Count's hand reaches toward her. He murmurs something about her being the only one. The sentence trails off, his hand still reaching. His expression curdles hurt, or something uglier, teeth bared faintly. Derja cries out, startled. He freezes, stunned, as she still won't let him touch her. Puck, small and bare, watches the moment pass in silence. Derja holds the cage against her chest, quiet and unmoving. She says only that it's nothing, to forget it. Resigned, the Count says so be it, that it's getting late, and bids her good night before withdrawing with his hooded attendants. Derja looks after him, murmuring her father's name once more as the door closes. Dahl addresses the Count with a formal title. The Count answers only with heavy, seething silence. The Count snaps at him to leave, go away, and Dahl flinches back, startled by the sudden venom in his voice. Dahl's face goes pale, eyes wide, sensing something dangerous simmering just beneath the Count's composure. The Count's voice rises to a raw shout, demanding to be left alone, a low rumble building around his hunched, hooded shape, as though something were straining to break loose from inside him, his daughter's fear of him plainly eating at him. The Count's hand trembles, gripping tight. Alone at a high window overlooking the castle grounds, he lets her name escape him, Therja, unbidden. Below, the same ruined scaffolding stretches down into shadow, a fitting mirror for what's unraveling in him. His eye catches the light, turned inward, distant, a man contemplating what he's let himself become. His fist clenches hard enough to creak. He descends a dark stairwell alone, a small hooded shape, a cry of dismay escaping him. Low laughter follows, not gleeful, but bitter and self-directed, teeth bared in the dark at the demon he's made of himself. The castle's towers rise against a churning sky, and somewhere within, a voice notes with dread that he has come. Guts's cloak whips violently as something claw-shaped bursts through the frame around him. Guts's eye fills the panel, fixed and intent. A dark, jagged shape erupts across the scaffolding in a spray of sparks. The fight has begun. A clawed shape lunges out of the shadows, the Count's transformation breaking loose. Guts's eyes snap wide, catching the sudden change overtaking the man in front of him. He plants himself, bracing against a shower of sparks and debris as the transformation tears through the hallway around them. He smirks close on his face and taunts the creature for its stubborn refusal to stay down. The hallway itself tears open in a burst of splinters and sparks as the Count's new form bursts fully loose, Guts braced beside the wreckage. The Count's eyes open in total darkness. He declares he's been waiting for Guts, greeting him by the name the world knows him by, the Black Swordsman. Guts stands atop the scaffold, sword already drawn, unmoved by the greeting. Below, thick, glistening limbs unfurl and drag themselves loose with a wet, dragging sound. The Count's mind now drives this ruined, monstrous body, a towering, warped mass with several twisted faces sprouting from its neck and shoulders, remnants of armor fused grotesquely into ravaged flesh, its arms replaced by immense clawed tendrils. Guts, close on his face below, remarks flatly that it's uglier now than the last time he saw it. The Count, driving the ruined body forward, snarls through one of its faces that there will be no games this time, and nowhere left for him to run. Guts grits his teeth as something tears into him with a wet, ugly sound. Guts levels the crossbow mounted on his mechanical arms straight at his opponent, jaw clenched tight with focus. One of the creature's faces bares its teeth, sensing what's coming. The device fires, the creature's central face is struck dead on, bolts driving into flesh, its scream tearing loose as it's thrown backward. Guts stands in the foreground, the smoking weapon still trained on his opponent, his expression hard and unreadable. The creature reels, one of its faces gasping in stunned disbelief at the damage done. The creature's twisted heads groan, arrows and bolts still bristling from its ravaged flesh. Guts's jaw is set, sweat streaking down a face drawn tight with effort. One of the monstrous heads snarls around the bolts, driven through its own jaw. The pain tears loose from somewhere deep inside the ruined body, an ugly, ragged howl. Guts leaps up a stretch of shattered wooden stairway, cannon arm raised high, his cloak whipping behind him as fire lights the castle beyond. He roars as he throws himself through the wreckage toward the writhing mass waiting below. Guts raises his crossbow arm, another dart already loaded. He holds his ground as the stairway itself starts to give way and collapse around him. His face is set hard in profile, undeterred by the structure crumbling beneath his feet. A scream tears loose his own effort as another bolt finds its mark. He follows it with a strike of his blade into one of the creature's clawed tentacle limbs, debris exploding outward. Guts moves through the wreckage as a tentacle lashes toward him. His boot slams down amid flying splinters. A clawed hand flexes, ready to strike. A scream rips through the chaos. The creature's many heads roar in unison, horns and fanged mouths crowding together atop its armored, ruined body. Guts swings his massive sword in a sweeping arc, driving it deep into the creature's clawed limb as it reaches for him. His face fills the frame, resolute and intense, the strike having landed true. Struck by the blow, the creature reels and begins to fall, plunging down through the center of the ruined stairwell. Guts watches it disappear into the dark below. The fight with it is finally over. He turns and climbs further up the stairwell, pressing on toward the Count's true body. His face is set and silent, already bracing for what still waits ahead. His eyes go wide, too late. He realizes it isn't over yet. A clawed tentacle whips out from behind and catches him hard. He staggers, grimacing, blood already pouring from a fresh wound to his head. The blow lands with a sickening, wet impact. More jagged, clawed limbs unfurl around him as whatever struck him reveals itself. The Count now stands revealed in his full demon form, a towering mass of horns, eyes, and twisted flesh. He boasts that he'll simply keep regenerating himself, no matter how much Guts cuts him down. It's futile, he says, hacking this body apart accomplishes nothing. Unless, he adds with a low laugh, his head is severed entirely. Otherwise, he warns, this will just keep happening over and over again. Without hesitation, Guts drives his sword straight into the Count's face, splitting it in half. The blow lands true, braced hard against the recoil as the blade sinks into the hilt. Guts stands firm, sword still driven straight through the ruin of the Count's face. One of the shattered heads flinches, reacting to what's coming. Guts's face is set hard, and he offers a grim thanks for the tip. The severed head, wide-eyed and already knitting itself back together, tendrils curling from its mouth, declares that now it will feed. Off Guts's own body, the threat finishing as its ruined face fills the frame. Guts backs away sharply as the regenerating head slides slowly down the length of his blade toward him. The severed head, still speared on his blade, seems to sense what's coming. Guts's face is set, resolute, blood streaking his skin. He plants his boot and rises, sword raised with the head still fixed on it. He swings the blade in a wide, violent arc, aiming straight for the nearest wall. The strike carries through, head and sword together bearing down on the stone. The head shatters against the stone in a burst of gore and splintered bone, the impact echoing through the ruined stairwell. One last eye goes wide in the wreckage of it. Dark, ruined matter slides slowly down the stone. A last twitch of movement and then stillness. Guts's face is streaked with blood, his expression hard and unreadable. It's done. Guts breathes hard, blood dripping steadily from his mouth. The Count's voice reaches him still. This isn't over, he warns. His true body is waiting upstairs. The word hangs in the air, upstairs. Guts's face is drawn and exhausted. He stands amid the wreckage in silence, gathering himself before he moves on. He curses under his breath. He's lost too much blood. His foot catches, and he stumbles hard on the broken stairs. He forces himself upright and keeps climbing, blood marking the steps behind him. He grits out that he can't give up, fist clenched hard, blood streaking his face. It's hatred now driving him forward, teeth bared against the pain. He vows to run the creature's damned head through on his blade of steel, leaping through a debris-strewn corridor lined with broken shelving. Something answers with a wild, manic scream, promising to run him through in turn. Blood drips steadily, a fist clenches hard, grinding with tension, daring him to just wait and see. The castle looms against the night sky, sparks still scattering through the dark. Puck stirs, a small uncertain sound escaping him. He startles as the cage is opened. Derja looks at him, quiet and unreadable. Puck stammers that he isn't very tasty, elves are bad for digestion, he warns, and awfully high in calories besides. Derja tells him she won't hurt him, that he can come out. She knows exactly what it feels like to be locked in a cage. Puck stays quiet in the cage. Derja says she understands why he doesn't trust her. She is, after all, his daughter. Puck mutters that she's probably only saying that so she can eat him alive once he comes out. He asks her quietly what she meant that day. Derja answers that everything changed that day. Her father became a different person. Puck listens, silent. Her face goes still and serious as she tells him that was the day her mother died, 7 years ago. Derja explains that in those days, a sect of heretics stood openly against her father. She was only a baby then, she doesn't remember any of it herself, only what her father told her afterward. Puck watches her, tense and attentive. One day, she says, they kidnapped her mother, threatening to kill her unless her father let them practice their pagan worship freely. A dark, winged shape looms behind the words, as though given monstrous form by the telling. Her father, she says, couldn't allow it without the king's permission, and so he refused their demands. Puck says nothing. The word escapes her, mother. And so, she says, they carried out their threat. They offered her mother up alive, she says, a sacrifice to their evil god. Puck's face crumples in shock. Derja's expression is hard, unreadable, the memory pressing close. He may have been harsh, she says, but only because it let him defend his kingdom against its enemies. He was trusted, loved by everyone. Father was a great ruler, she insists, even as a father. Puck settles near her, quiet, listening. Puck sits with his back to her, silent. A mirror reflects an old portrait, her father, her mother, and a much younger Derja together, a family that no longer exists. Derja's face crumples, tears falling as she admits it. He changed. The word catches in her throat, but father. Now, she says, it doesn't even matter to him anymore whether someone's a heretic or not. Like a man possessed, she says, he started hunting down heretics indiscriminately. It's almost, she admits, as if he enjoys hurting people. Derja stands in her nightgown, Puck close beside her, the word trailing off into silence, but Derja's voice catches, almost as if she says he isn't human anymore. Sometimes, she admits, she feels the thought trails off. Puck reaches for her, saying her name softly. She admits, through tears, that she's scared. Elsewhere, a procession of robed and armored figures moves through a corridor. Armored guards stand watch at the foot of a stairway. 2 guards trade uneasy jokes. Don't joke like that, one says. At this castle, it isn't even funny. The other shrugs it off. On a night like this, he says, they ought to just take off. A 3rd guard grumbles about the strange, heavy humidity in the air tonight. One of them notices something, hey, over there. The other asks, uncertain, what's wrong. A vast hall lined with statues and columns stretches out before them, Guts already moving through it, sword flashing. Guards raise their weapons, demanding to know who goes there. Tension mounts between them, blades flashing. Guts's face is revealed, a bandage wrapped tight over one eye, hard and unreadable. He fires his crossbow point-blank and simply walks past as they drop. More guards are thrown aside, weapons clattering, bodies falling. Guts climbs a stone staircase, favoring his wounds slightly. He keeps climbing, undeterred. He reaches the top and strides into a vast hall, rows of armored knights lined up on either side beneath banners bearing the castle's crest. Dahl tells him plainly they knew he'd be coming since they knew he was in league with Vargas. Rows of armored guards stand ready on the stairs behind him. More guards, close and grim-faced, wait for the order. Dahl warns him this is as far as he goes, surrender quietly, or be killed where he stands. Guts's face is hard, and unreadable beneath the bandage. Guts tells him to move. Something in Dahl's expression flickers, startled. Guts tells him flatly, he's in the way, move. Dahl's composure cracks, sweat beading on his brow. He orders the archers to fire at will. He sneers that Guts must be a fool to think he can take on 50 troops alone. A wall of crossbowmen raises their weapons, ready to loose. The crossbowmen loose, a storm of bolts screaming down the hall toward him. The archers reload without pause. Guts stands unmoved, his giant sword planted in front of him, the bolts breaking against the flat of the blade. Dahl's face is a mask of disbelief at what he's seeing. One soldier's shock is plain, he's blocking all of it with his sword. Guts tears through the ranks regardless, blade flashing, bodies thrown aside. Dahl's face contorts in horror as more guards rush to intercept him. Dahl screams at his men, what are they waiting for? Attack! Guts presses on through the chaos, sword raised. The guards surge forward with a battle cry, spears leveled at him. He cuts through the charge without breaking stride. More guards fall to his blade, crying out as they go down. The melee closes in from every direction. Another falls, armor giving way beneath the strike. Dahl screams a name into the chaos, Jericho, Jericho. He shouts at the man to do something, anything, come on. A massive armored knight, far larger than the men around him, steps forward to shield Dahl with his huge shield. Dahl needles the huge knight. He always bragged about being stronger than Zondark, didn't he? Get him, show them his strength now. Guts's face is set, unmoved by the challenge. A boot lands hard as the fight begins between them. Jericho bears down on him with the full weight of his armor. Guts meets the attack head-on, refusing to give ground. Jericho lets out a strangled, disbelieving cry. More guards close in, around the two of them. Guts raises his massive sword overhead with both hands. A pair of narrowed eyes fixes on him. Jericho's face is set behind his helm, teeth gritted for the impact. The blade comes down. Guts's cloak whips past the guards as he closes the distance. Jericho's armor shatters under the blow, fragments exploding outward in every direction. Dahl's face is frozen in shock, sweat beading down his skin. Guts's back bears a fresh wound, the impact still ringing through him. The remaining guards cry out, pain, disbelief both. A weapon lies broken and abandoned amid the wreckage. Dahl screams after his fleeing men, where do they think they're going, fools? The guards break and scatter down the stairs, the formation collapsing into chaos. Dahl shouts after them to come back, he's warning them. More guards fall as Guts presses on regardless. Dahl cries out, startled. Guards now gone. Guts has a straight shot at Dahl. He steps directly towards him up the stairwell. Dahl's face shocked with horror. Guts's eye is narrow and intent, fixed on his target. He raises his massive sword overhead, Dahl standing small and still before him. A quiet voice offers an apology, I'm sorry. The other asks, puzzled, what for? Night settles over the castle walls, sparks and stray light scattering across the dark. Puck brightens, no problem, he says, he'll lend her his shoulder. Derja stands at the window, admitting she couldn't stop herself from crying. It's been so long since she's talked to anyone at all. She asks what it feels like to fly. Puck's face softens, he. She asks if he flies too, and asks gently if he has a name. He blinks, caught off guard by the question. He answers proudly, the name's Puck. Derja says it must be a bit easier than walking, though half of it, she guesses, is just up to the wind. Puck hovers, considering the question, normal, he guesses. She asks what it's like. The same as for birds or bugs, he tells her. She murmurs, turning the thought over. She wonders aloud, if it's just an everyday thing for elves like him. Puck stays quiet, watching her. Puck drifts through the room, taking in the ornate furnishings around him. A framed portrait and a flower vase sit undisturbed on a mantel. A jester doll slumps beside a small pipe organ, long unplayed. Puck asks whether she really hasn't been out of this room all this time, for 7 years. Derja answers quietly that her father doesn't let her leave this room. He won't let anyone from the city, she says, or anyone even remotely connected to it, come near her. He believes heretics are still lurking out there even now. Standing at the window, Derja tells him this is her world. Everything outside it is just her little piece of sky. Her face is calm, resigned, older than it should be. Puck thinks to himself that those are sober eyes, not the eyes of a child. Something stirs beyond the glass, drawing both of them to the window. Derja peers out, asking what's happening. Out on the rooftops, guards scramble a burglar, an intruder in the inner compound. Puck's face lights up with shock as he realizes who it must be, Guts. He tells Derja the burglar they're shouting about is someone he knows. He tells her he has to go. Derja protests that he can't, it's far too dangerous out there. Puck insists he'll be fine, he's quick, and he's seen his share of battles. Derja cries out, refusing to let him go. Puck freezes midair, stunned by the force of it. She catches herself, hands flying to her mouth. She apologizes, ashamed of the outburst. Puck tells her it's only natural she'd worry about her friend. He adds, awkwardly, that Guts isn't exactly his friend. The words hang between them. Derja reaches up and unfastens the window. She opens it and tells him to go on. Puck says her name. She reminds him she told him she knew what it felt like to be locked in a cage, and admits it's because she is one. Puck has nothing to say to that. Derja manages a soft well, and Puck answers with an uncertain okay. He says goodbye and slips out through the open window. Derja stands alone at the window, watching him disappear into the night. The stars stretch out beyond the glass. She turns from the window. She walks slowly back across the empty room. Her bare feet cross the cold floor. Derja sits down, alone. A tapping at the window makes her turn sharply. Puck hovers outside, saying there's something he forgot to say. She hurries over, asking what. Hanging upside down at the glass, he tells her he'll be back to see her later. Her whole face opens, lit up with something she hasn't felt in years. And then, he adds, he'll take her out of here. Derja can only manage a stunned sound. Puck waves and darts away into the dark. He shrinks to a speck of light against the night. Derja stands alone in the vast, empty bedroom. She admits to herself that for so long now she'd given up even dreaming about it. To actually leave this room. She stands at the open window, the thought almost too large to hold, to go outside. Streaking through the night, Puck turns it over. Was it revenge that drove the Count? Revenge on the heretics who took the woman he loved? Is that why he sought out demonic power? He summoned the God Hand and made himself into a demon. Guts walks straight past Dahl without stopping, sword resting on his shoulder, Dahl reeling out of his path. Dahl stumbles and sprawls backward across the floor. Guts's face stays flat and cold as he keeps walking. Dahl claps a hand over his own mouth, eyes wide. He sits collapsed on the floor as Guts moves on without a backward glance. Guts strides forward beneath the vaulted arches, sword slung over one shoulder, cloak sweeping the floor behind him, bloodied, bandaged, and entirely unstoppable. Guts walks the length of a vast, pillared hall toward the distant throne where the Count waits. The Count greets him warmly. Well done, Black Swordsman. Impressive that he made it this far. He tells him to come and test him, to see just how far human power will go. Guts's face is set beneath the bandage, unmoved by any of it. Guts brings the huge blade down off his shoulder, gripping it ready. Far back down the hole, Dull staggers along in his wake. His boots grind against the floor as he plants himself. Dull's eyes go wide with fresh panic. The Count settles back comfortably on his throne, unbothered. Guts crosses the last stretch of floor toward the throne, sword lowered. His face is hard, fixed on the thing waiting for him. His boots shift across the stone. He advances step by step. His remaining eye narrows. He hauls the sword up into a two-handed guard. Thick tentacles burst up through the flagstones around him, and he braces to meet them. His blade tears through the mass of writhing limbs. Guts grits his teeth against the effort, sweat and blood on his face. He drives the sword down again into the tangle of tentacles, severed flesh spraying across the stone. Something registers from the far end of the hole, an exclamation of surprise. The Count remarks, almost pleased, that it was nicely countered. Guts stands in a shower of shattered stone, blade still braced. More limbs sweep toward him through the wreckage. From the throne, the Count's body swells outward into a vast mass of glistening tentacles that fills the hole. He says he now grasps the full extent of Guts's skills. Guts stands in the wreckage below, sword ready, dwarfed by the thing in front of him. The Count muses that it seems he too. Guts's face tightens, sensing the shift. Must take this fight a little more seriously. Far outside, Puck hovers against the castle wall, sheepishly realizing he flew out without ever asking where the Count's quarters actually are. The castle wall explodes outward in a torrent of stone, catching Puck full in the blast. He's thrown backward, arms flailing, crying out. Rubble tumbles down through the dark around him. He comes to rest against the broken stone, dazed. He lies still for a moment in the wreckage. Dust drifts across the shattered stone. He pushes himself up and shouts Guts's name into the dark. Puck's hand presses flat against the rubble. He braces and pushes himself upright. He lies among the broken stones, catching his breath. He lifts his head, blinking through the dust. Something vast shifts in the dark in front of him, a wall of gray, wrinkled flesh sliding past, far larger than any wall. Puck's face contorts in absolute terror at the sheer scale of what he's looking at. Debris and shattered stone tumble through the air behind Puck as the massive, ribbed mass of flesh continues to surge forward. A thick, fleshy stalk rises, revealing a bulbous head with protruding eye stalks and a human-like face embedded in its side. The smooth, serene human face on the creature's side smiles in profile, framed by eye stalks and writhing tendrils. Below, a thick, ribbed foot oozes along the stone floor, leaving a glistening trail behind it. Guts stands firm on the stone floor, sword drawn and bandaged head set, facing down the enormous shadow of the creature as it towers over him. Guts grips his broadsword tight, jaw set hard, as a giant fanged mouth opens in the shadows with a fierce declaration to crush him. A massive maw filled with sharp, tightly packed teeth gapes wide, tendrils bristling around its jaw. The Count's transformed body fills the vast hole, a towering slug-like creature with fanged maws, eye stalks, and sprawling limbs, dwarfing Guts as he stands ready with his giant sword among the fallen stone pillars. High above, the Count's face smirks down from between two stalk-like eyes, teeth bared in a wide, eerie grin. Puck hovers near a stone column, face pale and wide-eyed with shock as the towering slug monster writhes before him. Dull cowers against a pillar, hands raised and mouth open in a helpless scream as the creature looms over the hall. Guts stands with his back turned, cloak fluttering, as he faces the massive writhing mass rising before him. Guts swings his massive sword in a wide arc, severing a bundle of reaching tendrils in a flash of light. He pivots smoothly on his heel, blade poised and cloak whipping around him. The monster's head rears back, taunting Guts that he now understands the futility of his attack. Guts slashes through the tips of reaching claws, sending severed pieces flying. The severed tendrils twitch on the stone floor, continuing to squirm. The Count boasts that cutting off his limbs is useless, as his body only grows larger and stronger each time he is hacked apart. Guts leaps backward through midair above the shattering floor, blade ready, as a huge clawed limb smashes into the masonry behind him. The Count mocks that a simple sword cannot destroy him, his massive body swelling to fill the entire corridor. In her bedroom, Derja gasps as a sudden tremor shakes the castle. Dust and stone rain down from the ceiling as a heavy chandelier sways and furniture crashes to the floor, forcing Derja to shield herself. Cracks spread rapidly across the bedchamber walls, stone fragments showering around her. Derja cowers on the floor, hands covering her head as rubble falls around her bed. Derja sits up on the dust-covered floor, gasping as the shaking subsides. She turns toward the bedroom door, noticing it has been jarred partially open by the structural collapse. She crawls out from beneath a fallen wooden beam, staring in disbelief at the open exit. Derja stands slowly, eyes wide as she realizes the door to her 7-year captivity is finally unlatched. She steps toward the heavy wooden doors, staring into the dark hallway beyond. Derja pushes the door open slightly, peering timidly into the dark corridor outside. Her hand rests nervously on the door latch as she hesitates on the threshold. She glances down the empty hallway, heart pounding in the heavy silence. Her bare feet step out onto the cracked stone floor beyond her room. She pauses, biting her lip nervously as dust drifts down around her. She stands small in the doorway, staring out into the wide, ruinous corridor. Derja hesitates in the doorway, remembering Puck's promise to return and take her away. She clasps her hands to her chest, torn between waiting for him and stepping forward. She glances back into her bedroom one last time. Her expression hardens with sudden resolve, eyes fixed on the path ahead. Derja steps out through the tall arched doorway, her silhouette framed against the bright light streaming into the dark corridor. The Count's massive, fanged head lunges forward, jaws open wide to expose row upon row of jagged teeth. Guts dives desperately out of the way, eyes wide, as Puck flies beside him screaming a warning. Guts hits the floor and slides across the stone on his side, his cape flaring as a massive, thorny tentacle smashes into the ground right where he just was. The Count's giant slug body crashes through a stone pillar, bringing it down in a shower of debris as Guts slides backward to regain his footing. Guts takes cover behind a large stone pillar, resting his heavy sword against his shoulder. The Count's human face looks around the ruined hall, angrily demanding to know where Guts is hiding. The monstrous body slithers forward, mocking Guts's sudden retreat and asking if he's finally realized he has no chance of winning. Elsewhere in the hall, an old man in robes runs desperately toward a set of double doors, frantically asking what's going on. The old man stops, trembling in sheer disbelief at the nightmare unfolding around him. He casts a terrified glance over his shoulder. Guts stands silent in the shadows behind his pillar, listening closely to the monster's movements. The old man's face contorts in absolute terror as he lets out a sudden, piercing scream. The Count's human face smirks maliciously, its eye stalks locking onto a target. The massive body drags itself between the columns, continuing to call out for the Black Swordsman. A spiked, fleshy limb whips smoothly around the corner of a pillar. Puck presses his back flat against the stone, sweating and wide-eyed with fear. The Count's smirking face rises on the side of a massive tentacle rearing up right behind Guts's hiding spot. Guts stands unaware in the shadow of the column. Puck peeks out and screams for Guts to watch his back. The The massive tentacle smashes completely through the stone pillar, obliterating Guts' cover in an explosion of rubble. Puck bites his nails in sheer panic as the dust billows. The Count's face chuckles darkly from the wreckage. We see the results of the Count's actions as Doll lays smashed from it on the ground, eyes now wide as he realizes his advisor is now dead. Puck flinches, horrified by what he sees. Guts dashes low beneath the creature's massive bulk, drawing his giant sword back for a heavy swing. He dashes forward, determined to land the killing blow. Guts swings his sword with all his might, carving a huge, horizontal gash across the Count's main body. Blood erupts from the wound as the monster roars. The Count's face smirks, bleeding from a deep cut across the forehead, but boasts that it's merely a surface wound. Guts grits his teeth, cursing the creature's resilience. Guts holds his ground, sword raised, as thorny tentacles whip fiercely through the air around him. Guts stands firm in the ruined hall. A volley of thick, spiked tentacles slams into Guts' back all at once, lifting him off his feet and knocking the giant sword from his grasp. The Count's face laughs maniacally amidst the flailing limbs. Guts' head snaps back, blood erupting from his mouth as the sheer force of the impact crushes him. A tight close-up of Guts' face, his eyes rolling back in shock and agony. Guts screams, his silhouette stark against the devastating impact. The force of the blow sends Guts hurtling through the air, crashing straight through another stone pillar. He hits the rubble hard, coughing up a spray of blood. Guts collapses into the debris, his mechanical arm pinned beneath him as Puck screams his name. Puck flies down toward Guts' motionless body among the broken stones. The old man's severed head lies discarded in a pool of blood nearby. Puck stares down at Guts, stunned into complete silence. The Count's face looks down at the fallen swordsman, casually calling him a rogue. The Count's slug body towers over the fallen Guts, praising his quick wits and acknowledging him as a first-rate warrior for setting a decoy to aim at his head. A close-up of the Count's face, bearing the deep scar from Guts' blade, stating that in the end, it was merely a human technique. Guts pushes himself up on his hands and knees, trembling and bleeding heavily. The Count's massive silhouette looms, declaring it irrational to think a mortal could defeat a being completely beyond human limits. A tight close-up of the Count's eye widening in sudden disbelief as he realizes survival with the brand is impossible. Puck flinches, surprised by the Count's sudden reaction. Guts' face is drawn tight in exhaustion as the Count points out the brand carved into his neck. The Count slithers closer through the ruined pillars, taunting Guts that his quest for revenge is hopeless, as a mere mortal can never win. Guts remains on his knees, head bowed, as the Count notes he can't even stand after taking a single strike. The Count's face smirks, telling him there is no need to continue his war of pain and fear, constantly hounded by demons. Guts slowly raises his head, one eye glaring intensely, and agrees in a low voice that it's a meaningless fight. A close-up of Guts' mechanical hand resting near a pouch on his belt, trembling with suppressed rage, as the Count advises him to put an end to it and offers to release him from his suffering. The Count's human face smirks in the shadows, declaring that he will dispatch his opponent once and for all, sending him back to his final resting place in hell. Guts leaps forward through a shower of broken stone, his face set in grim determination, as the Count proclaims this outcome was preordained the moment the brand was carved into his neck. Guts looks up, eyes wide and sweat beading on his face, as the Count's voice booms that divine providence cannot be thwarted by the efforts of a mere man. The Count's massive slug form towers over the ruined hall, telling Guts he can die proudly knowing he managed to land at least one blow. Puck hovers in the foreground, screaming for Guts to look out. Guts gasps, his eyes going wide with sudden shock as he looks upward. A massive, claw-tipped appendage slams violently down toward him. A thick, fleshy tentacle wraps securely around Guts' ankle. Guts grits his teeth and cries out as the grip tightens painfully. He is violently yanked off his feet, tumbling backward through the air while still desperately gripping his heavy sword. Puck throws his hands up and cries out in fright as Guts is thrown. Guts struggles on the floor, groaning as he clutches his sword, one eye squeezed shut against the pain. The thick tentacle drags Guts roughly across the stone floor by his leg, while the Count's human face watches with a sadistic smirk. The Count drags Guts forcefully across the ruined masonry, his massive slug body looming in the background. Guts is abruptly hoisted high into the air, dangling upside down by the tentacle wrapped around his leg. Suspended high above the towering monster, Guts hangs upside down, still stubbornly clutching his giant sword with both hands. The Count's human face looks upward, observing his dangling prey with satisfaction. A tight close-up of Guts as blood sprays from his mouth, a pained gasp escaping him from the violent jolt of being suspended. Guts is swung violently through the open air by his leg, gritting his teeth against the sheer momentum. Puck hovers nearby, screaming in distress. The Count holds Guts suspended in front of his massive slug body, noting with dark amusement that the swordsman still refuses to part with his weapon. A close-up of Guts hanging upside down, blood trailing down his face as he hangs limp and dazed. Guts is slammed brutally, back first, into a large stone pillar, the heavy masonry shattering outward upon the devastating impact. Puck clutches his face in sheer horror, screaming as he watches the crushing blow land. Guts falls limply backward through the air amidst a shower of debris, his body entirely slack as he drops toward the rubble below. A tight close-up of Guts plunging headfirst toward the ground, his mouth hanging open in a silent, pained gasp as blood trails from his face. Broken, bleeding, and dangling at the mercy of a monster that defies logic. Is this where the Black Swordsman's path of revenge ends, or is a man's pure rage enough to shatter a demon's providence? Thank you for watching this chapter come to life. If you want to see how Guts survives this absolute nightmare, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you do not miss Chapter 6.